Welcome back. You're listening to My Conscious Dad on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. Today we are talking about why your teenagers stop talking to you as parents. And before we went on the break, or earlier, you had promised that you were going to give us some tips and tricks and ideas as to how to get your teens to start talking.
Yeah, so let's just jump into it. And then, as I go along, as you hear something that you want to really chime in or spin, I love the way that you articulate, coming from a different perspective. You got some great insight, so let me know when you want to just jump in on that. So tip number one on how to get your kids to re-engage with you. Number one is to make a conscious effort. You actually have to make a commitment to yourself that you want to work on your relationship with your kids. You have to make it a priority. It has to be a commitment. Just like the commitment you make to going to the gym, or a commitment you make to, work on your bills, once a week or whatever it is. You have to literally pencil it into your calendar, sometimes 3, 4, 12 times a day. And it has to be something that is important to you. It's like growing a tree. You're not going to go buy a tree and expect the tree to kind of grow on its own. It takes a commitment, it takes effort, it takes a conscious willingness to nurture it and watch it and observe it. You really got to be mindful of getting it to its next level. You got to get it, through the different stages. So that's number one. I think that's the priority.
Yeah, I think a lot of people just do it. They just do parenting. and a lot of people do that in relationships too, but what we've already learned and gone over a million times is that in order to have extraordinary relationships, you have to do more than just do.
Yeah, you can't, having a relationship is not enough, and doing a relationship is not enough, and doing and having a relationship is not enough. You have to be in the relationship, and part of the beingness is being committed, being making it a priority so that it's important to you. Number two is be authentically interested in your kids. I know it's probably common for a lot of parents to have fallen out of interest of what their kids are doing for whatever reason. You got a lot of distractions in today's world. Some parents are really focused on their careers or what's next for them, or if parents have separated, husbands and wives, a lot of times the wives will say, I've been a mom for so many years, I've lost who I am. Now I'm committed to doing me and figuring out what's important for me. And so then now that becomes, what's the new thing that's they're committed to, and then kids get put on the back burner. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't have that. I'm just saying that that's just a good possibility that becomes now more of a commitment than what your kids need from you. So for one, it's be authentically interested in your kids. And then when you're authentically interested in them, ask them more questions and listen more and talk less. So your job is to ask open-ended questions. So how was your day? What did you do today? How are you going to handle that problem? What do you need from me? Is there a way that I can support you? You just have to be really good at asking open-ended questions to get your kids to open up and share. That's really what your job is as a parent once they turn 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, is to be a great question asker. You just got to keep asking those questions, get them to speak more, get them to reflect more, get them to have some more insight, draw out more wisdom out of your kids. I think that's what's really important.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not necessarily just about the questions as much as it is about how you word them or how you say them, because there's a lot of times where my mom, for example, will say, "Oh, how was your day?" And then I tell her, and then she'll ask me another question. And it doesn't really seem like she's that interested in how my day was. So it seems like, what's the point? Or next time she asks me, "How's your day?" my answer is going to get shorter.
That's right. And that's why I said you have to authentically be interested. You can't just do it. It can't just be a task, or you can't just do it because, it's what you've trained yourself to do. A lot of times, it's almost like when you walk up to someone says, "Hey, how you doing?" And I think that's become a usual and customary way to engage people, but you don't really care about how people are doing. I think we heard a comedian say that one time, and we were laughing because people walk around.
It's true.
Yeah, it was like, "Hey, how you doing?" It's like, do you really care, or is it just something that you've trained yourself to say? And I think parents sometimes train themselves to check in with their kids, but you do it on automatic pilot. "Hey, how was your day today?" And then they're right back on Facebook while you're giving them their answer. Well, when you check out, they can see you check out, and it's almost like can you see that I just witnessed you ask me a question and then go on to something else? So it's really important for you to really be dialed in and authentically be interested in them. So that's important. The other thing is, decide that you're going to create a safe place or a safe space, we'll call it, for your kids to share. What do you think I mean when I say create a safe space for your kids to share? Because some people, they don't understand what I mean by that.
Well, for me, I feel the vulnerability. So I think that if someone else is being vulnerable or they're being open to sharing, then I'm going to be vulnerable or be open to sharing. So whatever you're looking for from me, you have to be it first.
Yeah. So when I say a safe space, we'll call it context. And for human beings, in context, we mean your beingness. Who are you being? So a safe space is who I'm being around you or with you while I'm asking you those questions. So I might say, hey, let's go for a walk. And me and you engaging on a walk down a path, in the backyard or down the street with birds chirping, and we're out of the four or 8 walls of our home where there's chaos, and we just create a different environment, but more specifically, who I'm being as I'm taking that walk with you allows you to feel safe enough to share and open up. And so what the words that I've created for that safe space is to have them share without judgment, without ridicule, and maybe in the beginning without trying to give them any kind of advice to try to fix it for them. Just in the very beginning, as you're trying to get them to trust you again, you might want to create that safe space without judgment, without ridicule, without advice. Let's go back to the beginning again. Let's go back to 0. And then let's start from there again, and then start reinventing a new relationship with our kids. And I think in order to do that, we got to chop off the judgment, the ridicule, and the advice, and go back to stage 1 again.
Yeah, one of the things that I hate, well, not hate, one of the things I resist the most is when people tell me, oh, you should do this, or you shouldn't have said that. You should, because it doesn't really matter. I already did it, so I'm coming to you to vent, or maybe to see what you would have done, not to see what I should have done.
I think it's just, when people are unconscious, we use those words. You should have done this. You should have done that. It's like we instead of being great listeners, we want to help fix things, and so we end up giving advice, and that's a lot of times parents show up like that to their kids, and it's kind of a turnoff. And if their parents aren't conscious and aware of it, they don't realize that they're doing it. The other thing is, shift your context. So we talked about this a little bit. Shift your context when you engage in a conversation. Practice the beingness. So be more loving. Even though I know, mom and dad, you think you love your kids to infinity, but your love for your kids may not be translated to your kids at affinity. If I ask you 0 to 10, you showing up to your kids as a loving mom or loving dad, you're going to tell me 15. But if I pulled your kid into the room and said, hey, I want you to rate your mom or dad 0 to 10 when it comes to loving, they might rate you a 6 or a 7. So you have to really practice going to a whole nother level of showing up in a loving way. So practice being more loving, being more compassionate. Now this is a big one. I think as human beings, we think we're all compassionate. I'm a 10. I'm off the charts when it comes to compassion. But yet compassion really allows you to put yourself in the other person's shoes. I wonder what my son's going through right now. I wonder what my daughter is feeling right now. And if I can put myself in your shoes, then I can shift into a compassionate place, and then I'm not yelling at you. Then I'm not telling you what I think you should be doing. Then I'm not automatically giving you advice from automatic pilot. If I'm compassionate and listening to you talk from a compassionate place, then maybe I can just now, I don't need words. I don't need to tell you anything. Maybe you just need a hug in that moment, or just the silence. So being compassionate is a very powerful tool that you have, and you have that ability. Another thing is be vulnerable. You don't know how many people, this is the one where when I ask people to rate themselves 0 to 10, people will be honest and say, I'm not a 10, I'm a 4. But your kids are dying for you to be vulnerable. They need you to bring that wall down. They need you just to be there and not try to act like you have all the answers for them, because most of the time you don't. Most of the times as parents, we don't have all your answers. We're pretending to have answers because that's what our ego wants from us. But sometimes, your kids want you to be vulnerable and say, you know what, son, I don't know what to do. I don't know what your answer is, but you know what? I'm here to support you while you figure it out. And some powerful young kids don't want their parents to have the answer for them. I know for you, from being your dad, there's a lot of times that I think that if I don't have answers for you and I allow you to sit in the not having any answers, I trust that you'll figure out your own answers because that's just who you are as a human being. And then the last thing is be playful and be fun. Your kids need you to lighten up. They need you to be playful. Like, and I've shared a lot of times when you're in a bad mood, I'll come into your room and I'll grab you and I'll, give you a bear hug and you're like, come on, Dad, get away. And I know it's your ego pushing me away. And I have to learn not to take that personal and still be fun and playful. And when I do that, I can see the little girl in you. The little girl in you doesn't want to push me away anymore. And then you end up kind of surrendering. And then we end up having that conversation that I really want to have with you.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to touch on real quick from the other topic was you're talking about being compassionate. And what I really love about compassionate people is they know how to be compassionate without understanding. And I think that's really cool because a lot of people need to understand before they could feel for you or step in your shoes or try to help you. And you don't necessarily need to understand. I don't need to understand why someone is going through something. I just feel for them.
That's right.
Anyways.
That's right. Yeah, and that's a great point, great insight. A lot of times people are trying to figure it out. And it's like, no, you don't have to figure it out. Just trust that this is how I'm feeling and take that for, have some compassion or some sympathy for I'm suffering right now and this is how I feel, whether it makes sense to you or not. That's great insight.
And then one of the things was just the being playful. And I think, like you said, we've talked about this before 100 times, don't take it as rejection. It's just us being us as kids and teens, because when we get older and when we have our own kids and we're in our 30s and 40s, we're going to be the same way to you. We're going to want hugs and kisses. And if by that time you guys have given up, it's going to be harder, or it's going to be a little bit more challenging for us to still be playful and fun and loving with you if you're old and mad at us.
Yeah, don't give up. When your kids push you away, do not give up. It is a natural response for your kids to want to push you away. It's the ego saying, I don't want to go here. I don't want to trust you again because you hurt me last time. Or I don't want to hear what you're going to say, Dad, because I just tried to talk to you 10 minutes ago and you just totally ignored me. And so their ego wants to be right about whatever it is. They want to have their wall up. They want to have their pity party in the room. Your job, Mom and Dad, is not take that personal. It's got nothing to do with you. Keep figuring out how to reinvent yourself. And again, the playful works. But a lot of parents don't give themselves permission to be playful. What they do is they get tagged, they take it personal, they get upset, and they go in defensive mode, and then fine, you stay in your room and cry yourself to sleep, and they slam the door or whatever, and they move on and they give up. And I'm trying to tell you, don't give up. Your kids are dying for you to try to figure out how to keep reinventing yourself, because they're yearning for you to figure out how to get to them. They need rescuing. They need you to figure out how to get to them. You got to go over the wall, through the wall, around it, whatever you need to do, but it's your job to figure it out. And then another one is check in more often with your kids. Be an invitation. Don't take no as a rejection or take it personal. It's not about you. And I need you to understand that as your kids are pushing you away or saying no to you after your first 2 or 3 attempts of being vulnerable and being an invitation, it's natural. It's part of the process. But I promise you, after the 3rd no, the 6th no, the 9th no, the 12th no, they're going to start to come around, because they've put up walls and pushed you away for so long. The armor is up, it's really thick, and you're going to have to keep chipping away at it. Don't get discouraged after the 3rd no or the 7th no or the 12th no. Have some resilience. Keep fighting for your kids. Your kids need you to fight for them to hook their heart again. And so you just have to not make it about you. It's not personal. It's just it's an ego thing. It's their ego that's coming up and not wanting to open up and trust you again. But I promise it'll be worth it once you finally crack through and get to their heart.
Yeah, I think it would be really cool if your kids knew that you understand that them saying no is okay, and that it's that you understand that it's not about us not wanting to spend time with you, that it's about whatever we have going on, because there's a lot of times where I say no and I feel really guilty. I can't always say yes, or I can't always commit to everything. So saying no, especially to my parents, my family, I give myself a hard enough guilt trip. So, maybe lighten up on your kids.
And another thing is too, is just because it's a no now doesn't mean it's no later. And you don't always have to have it right now. So if it's a no now, say, okay, I'll come back, or I'll invite you to the next one, or, give them their space. Maybe later on at night you knock on the door and you come in and, hey, can we talk now? But it's still no, Mom. Okay, I'll see you in the morning. You got to keep being that invitation. It's your job as the mom or dad to keep coming back to either clean it up or create the safe space for them to clean it up, or both of you to clean it up.
Yeah. Was that your last tip?
I have one more.
Okay, go ahead.
So the last one is be more present in their life. When they walk in the house or walk in the room, stop what you're doing, make eye contact, or at least have visuals on them so that when they do look at you and make eye contact, they see you watching, and then look for opportunities to engage. Take yourself off automatic pilot. Whatever it is you're doing, and you have a 13 or 14-year-old son or daughter that's suffering or silently in pain or checking out or tuning out, that's way more important than whatever you got going on whatever's on your plate.
Yeah, definitely don't take advantage of your kid if they're giving you that time, especially because I think everybody has gone through this, but this happens a lot in my household where, somebody will ask, oh, how's your day? And then you start talking and you get really into it. And this happened at work. And then that person who asked about your day is now on their phone or back on Facebook. And it's like, you asked.
This is funny. We could be having dinner and, one of us can ask you something, and then as you start, and I already know this about you, you get really, when someone asks you and you give your whole heart to something. So when someone asks you something, you feel, all right, I feel honored to share this with you. So you start sharing. God forbid somebody say, hey, can you pass the mashed potatoes or anything, any kind of distraction, and you're like, never mind, forget it. You're really sensitive and touchy about that. And so I already know that about you. So if someone's asking me to pass the corn, I'm going to ignore them and really focus on what is it.
You can't break eye contact, but you could still pass the corn.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Stay tuned for more of My Conscious Dad right here on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. Welcome back to My Conscious Dad. You're listening to me, Jasmine Ravina, and my dad, Alex Ravina, here at KHTS AM 1220. One of the things I wanted to mention, one, if you didn't hear the show, you should really go back and listen to the podcast, because my dad's not going to do a recap because he said no over the break. So go listen to the podcast. There's some really good golden nuggets in there. One of the things I was saying over the break was all of the tips were just different versions of themselves, and he said to me, yeah, to you they are, but to other people they aren't. And to me they are, because I always go full circle. What does this mean? And then it goes back to whatever, as a teen, I need from my parents. And I've said this before, I think on this show already, but I've said it 100 times. For me, the thing that always loops back around is being supported by my parents, and I guess getting validation in the decisions I make. So if I make a decision and, my mom says, you shouldn't have done that, it's like, wow, I already committed to this. So, for example, I just committed to a car payment, and my mom all the time, I don't know how you're going to do it. But just like little validations and little things that say, hey, I got your back. I know you can do this, but if you need me, I'm here. I don't think you're going to need me because you can do it. Things like that. Those are really encouraging. So, like I had said.
All right, how about this? How about I jump in and say, if you can't do it, I'll cover you for 5 months.
That's better, but
that gives you 5 months to figure out how to find a job, right?
Right, and the best thing about it is, even if I don't take you up on that offer, I know that you support me enough that you believe that I'm going to do it before the 5 months, because 5 months is a long time. So I don't expect you to do the whole 5 months, but I know that you believe in me.
I was going to say year, so I pulled it back to 5 months. So now we'll just pull it to 3 months. How does that sound?
Well, how about you just take over the whole 5 years?
No, then I'd be enabling you. I know, and you got to remember, we believe in you, and we know that what works for you is when we don't tell you that we got your back. And that was the one thing that really woke me up. And I'll share it right now. It was when I was a kid. I was actually in my early 20s, and I remember I wanted a new car, and I told my dad, "Hey, will you support me? Will you co-sign for me?" And I remember he told me no, and it was devastating. It like broke my heart. I remember I was maybe 25, 26, and I was crying like a little kid. I remember going home and being upset, and it was devastating to know that my dad, who I love so much and always had my back and everything, told me no. And it was kind of shocking to me. But I never forget that what happened when he told me no was it lit a fire inside of me. And what I said to myself was, all right, I don't need him then. And I stepped up and I figured out, it actually fired me up, and I figured out how to go qualify, get my own car, make my own payment. And it opened up so many doors within myself of personal growth and confidence and assurance that now, looking back, I'm so grateful that he said no to me. But there was something deep down inside, I knew that if I was struggling, he would have bailed me out. So you got to trust, and you got to know, without us telling you, without a shadow of a doubt, that we got your back. And I hope that you know that. But I'm not going to tell you I have your back, because I don't want to enable you, and I don't want to give you an out. You need to figure out how to step up, persevere, and figure out how to handle your circumstances. You are bigger than your circumstances. But me telling you is not good enough. You need to get out there and struggle and figure it out, just like the rest of us. I'm not going to rob you from that opportunity to figure out how powerful you really are. And the only way you're going to figure that out is when you come up against not being able to make a payment for 1 month or 2 months, or get behind. Some of my biggest breakthroughs have come from being, behind on the mortgage payment 3 or 4 months, and figuring out how to come back and persevere. It fires up a champion inside you, and I know you got one, and you'll figure it out.
Yeah, since we're talking about breakthroughs, one of my biggest things is when I can't figure something out, and I hate having to ask. I hate having to go to you guys, hey, I don't have enough money for this, or, so I would rather take the late fee, the $35 late fee, and just to get a couple more days to figure out the money than to go ask.
That's good. I've gotten, thousands of dollars in late fees because when I was younger, because I didn't want to ask, but it taught me something. It taught me how to trust that if I'm under the gun, all of a sudden it lights a fire inside of me, and I start getting creative. I start thinking outside the box. I start thinking about different ways to achieve or overcome or persevere or push through. So just trust in that. Just don't let it get too far where now your late fees are doubling and compounding. Then there's that stubbornness where you want to come in and go, hey mom, hey dad, I already didn't come to ask, and now I'm paying a bigger price, and now it's starting to steamroll. And then let us support you when it comes to that. What, we got your back when it comes to that. We just don't want you to have that easy out, so that you become needy of us. We want to develop confident, powerful, assured young men and women, so that you are independent.
Yeah, real quick, you keep saying this, and I'm wondering if there's people out there that don't know what you're talking about, but when you say it lights a fire in you, it's kind of like if you've never been so either worked up about something, because sometimes you can get upset about something and that's it. You're just mad about it for a week, and then you get over it and that's it. So if you've never experienced, what is that? What does that mean?
Yeah, I don't know how to explain it other than when, in Spanish, they call it ganas. It's like a deep burning desire inside, like the pit of your stomach. It's like you got this will to overcome. You have this burning passion to maybe sometimes to prove someone wrong. My mom said I can't do it, or my dad said, I don't see you can handle this, and I'm going to prove to him, or I'm going to show him, or even I'm going to show myself, or I'm going to prove to myself. It's this hunger inside of you. It's this fuel that's ready to burn inside of you, and all of a sudden what it does is it starts to generate these creative ideas. You go to sleep, thinking that you're sleeping, but while you're asleep, the wheels are still spinning, and you wake up, you're in the shower, and all of a sudden you're downloading all these awesome ideas. And you've proven that to me several times, where I've said, hey, I know you were reaching out to me the last couple of days. What do you need? And you go, Dad, I got it. I handled it already. And inside, I'm like, you go, girl, because had I been there right when you needed me, what would have happened? You probably would have created a new belief that, oh, my dad will handle anything. I can just go to him for all of it. And that's not what I want. I don't want to rob that desire inside of you that figures out how to overcome, adapt, and achieve the things that you really want inside of you.
Yeah, I think it's really easy to fall back on our parents, my parents, because, you know, you guys are always there and you're always going to support me. You know, going back to the car thing, I have been wanting to buy a car for the last year, you know, and I finally did it on my own versus needing you guys to co-sign and everything. So
you rocked it, girl. I'm proud of you.
Thanks for joining us today. We're here every Friday from 1 to 2 p.m. right here on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.